So Laurel, I mean, I think it would be good for us to continue where we already are. You like dancing, right?
I do. I love dancing.
Has that been even since the young days, or
Always. Yeah.
always? I mean, using your body and expressing yourself through dancing, for example, is it like mind therapy, or how do you see that? Or is it more like an exercise?
I'm a very hyperactive person. So, and I love music. My father was a musician, so I love music. And if I hear anything that has a beat, I'm off.
And what kind of music is the favorite?
My favorite? I don't really have a favorite.
But what style is? Do you have any style that's more you?
Not really. I like anything. I mean, I'll listen to classical opera, and if it's got a beat, I can dance to it.
Yeah, that's a little bit difficult sometimes with
Tricky.
operas, right?
You have to find the right one.
You're from the UK?
Yes, I was born in London.
Always lived in the UK? Or?
No. I was born in London. When I was about 10 years old, we moved to Germany, my mother and sister and I. We were there for a little while, and we moved back. And then she fell in love with an American, so we moved to New York City. We were there for a few years, and we moved back to the UK. And I was working for a company that did printing in-house, so I was aware of printing from that point. But I had a very serious job with a company car, a serious boyfriend. I just bought my house, and I was only 21, so I was very, this is my life? It's got to be more than this. So I left, and I went back to America and traveled a little bit, and I ended up in California, and it was all very messy. I've had a very messy life, I think it's a good way to put it.
But a life that you enjoy looking back at, or?
Absolutely, yeah. I will never change the years I spent in Los Angeles. So I went to UCLA and studied linguistics and English literature. And to get myself through college, I got a job with Jonathan Seibold.
Oh, so you've also been part of the Seibold. Actually, now you say that, I remember that when I was reading up on you. But I mean, how was it working for Seibold? And that was also the reason I told you earlier today that I spoke to David Dilling from Marksware, because I think that interview was actually about Seibold.
About that. Well, he had advertised for he'd gone to a temporary agency for someone to come and help him with a mail shot. I think 30 or 40 envelopes had to be typed out. When I went for the interview, he tested my typing, and I literally went, "Really?" Because in America, teenagers are taught to type, at least they were. So I was only 22. I couldn't type at all. The job I had in England, I worked with people who did that. So, all right, we'll try this. I know that this is a disaster. Anyway, he hired somebody else, and she couldn't come in for some reason. So second best, I go in and do it. And I was really interested in what the flyer was, because it was to promote the very first Seibold seminar on the West Coast. Jonathan Seibold's father, John Seibold, had run seminars on the East Coast a lot, but Jonathan had moved to the West Coast, and he was running this week-long event. So I got involved to help, and we got on quite well. And then, we worked out, I could work part-time for the Seibold organization and part-time do college, and that's what I did. And we built up the business quite quickly. So it was just him and me at first, and we took on more people, and it grew. And it was a great time. So we did a magazine about Jonathan Seibold last year, right? 1.5 years ago, right? Yes.
You may have seen it on the table.
I did. It was by Mark Bruno, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's an English publication. Yeah, we came up with the idea because it's funny, even in America sometimes, that I think that both John and Jonathan Seibold has been so instrumental, both in real reporting, but also in how to curate the trade shows. I think that diminished the value a little bit, because I think that the Seibolds were more interesting, basically.
It was a very interesting model, because the Seibold report on publishing systems, and then we had 2 others on word processing, and I can't remember what the last one was. But the Seibold report on publishing systems, none of them took advertising. But if you have an exhibition and a conference, even if it's a conference just with a very small not even a trade show, just invited manufacturers to come and show us what you're doing with your software or whatever. You essentially have the starting point for an advertising-supported model, because the exhibition becomes the forum for
And needed,
advertising.
of course, to be advertised, of course. Yeah.
Well, and they were the advertisers. They happened to be live, not in print in the magazine, but we had this, I guess you could call it a dialogue between what was the publication was about and what we were trying to do with the conferences and the exhibition. And the exhibition, Siebold Seminars was never meant to be an exhibition, but we had the idea to do a conference just on desktop publishing. And the origins of that were that we had the 5-day Siebold Seminars. It was on page makeup, integrated text and graphics, and 1 day on electronic printing. And electronic printing, well, that was becoming desktop publishing, where you were going direct digital onto a substrate. That was the thinking. Anyhow, it seemed sensible to take that event, that part of the conference, out and give it a dedicated event. So 6 months beforehand, we had a Siebold seminar, and we put together a panel of potential exhibitors. Adobe, I don't think Apple were involved with us at that point, PageMaker, various people, and asked them, what do you think? Would you support such an event? And it was unequivocal. They really wanted a dedicated event on desktop publishing.
And just imagine, I mean, because today we take everything around desktop publishing. We don't even call it that anymore, kind of thing, right? But everything that like self-publishing, self-filming, self-podcast, self-everything, right, is so everywhere today. And it was so instrumentally new when you were part of the Siebold. Right?
Well, it was everything that we were writing about, and later on when we were doing lots of testing, all of that stuff is redundant now because it's all in the phone. But there's a direct link between the work that was done back then and what people can do now with digital data. And I would argue that this industry is all about getting digital data onto a substrate. It could be a T-shirt, it could be newsprint, it could be a book. The thing that's interesting is that it's about managing data, and it's about empowering people to do that management themselves. So, for example, if you are a novelist, you can self-publish your novel. You can subcontract all sorts of people to do it for you, which is what a publisher does.
Precisely, yeah.
So, and it's all about the data. I guess that's the point.
I mean, this is, here at the non-event, this is the first time we meet each other. But I mean, of course, I spoke to you yesterday as well, but it's sitting here with the cameras turned on. To me, the glow in your eye and the passion for what you're talking about just reignites, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And this is a bit of a problem because I'm 69 years old. I should be retiring. But it's always so interesting. Right? There's always something interesting. And there's always something innovative that people are doing in the market with this technology. So,
so do you spend a lot of time on keeping yourself informed, you would say?
Not really.
Not really.
Not as much as I should do,
Okay.
I suppose, because I want to write fiction more than I want to write technical stuff about the printing industry. So I try and divide my time a little bit. But because I sit on, I convene a working group for one of the international standards organizations, technical committees. And the technical committee is called Graphics Technology, so it's printing and publishing. My little working group, well, it's not so little, we have over 90 members, we develop standards for the sustainability of print.
Yeah, because now you mentioned sustainability, and that has been like, I mean, that has been like a big part of your life.
It's always been important to me. I can't bear waste in anything. I'm obsessive, annoying to my family. I can't bear waste, and I don't see why we shouldn't focus on managing waste better. So
you've seen some of the people that is trying to do something about it.
Yeah,
today,
Rika's
right?
presentation was really inspiring, and it confirms. You know, when you get older, you look back and go, "Wow, look at it was better then. We don't have the kind of innovation we have." Yes, we do. You have to have faith in younger people to come up with things that didn't get thought of 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They didn't think of it because they couldn't.
No, and it's funny also when you talk about that generational thing, because often when I talk to, let's say, C-level in printing companies, and they say that we should have more people, young people in here, and I said, but then you could step down and give the job to a 25 years old person that have the skills necessary for at least starting, and then you can be the mentor. And then it's just like blank eyes because they see the salary is decreasing, lifestyle decreasing, everything is decreasing. So we are all talking about how important it is, and none of us are really willing of giving up, right?
Well, and this is something that your slides earlier that had I can't remember what your slide was called, but you had several different things on there, you know, about the disparity between
what we say and what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we should all be thinking about in terms of sustainability is convenience, because an awful lot of what we do and buy and use is driven to some extent by the convenience of getting it and having it.
I can tell you that just after lunch, I spoke to one of the other attendees here, and I said to her, it's kind of interesting for me when you see something like what Rege was doing with the upcycling, right? Because, you know, I think that one of the things that Europeans have acknowledged is simply that we have to do something for the environment, right? And in America, they still often have these discussions because it costs money. But here's an example that actually doesn't have to cost money, could actually become a business where you can make money. And I think, as you say, convenience, yes, but the moment where you can also, let's say, grows from actually doing the right things, then it will almost, I think it would be a very I think it was the US are not part of the Kyoto treatment as far as I remember, but they actually achieved the objectives of Kyoto faster than the European Union did, just because of the commercial interest of reducing.
And the commercial interest in managing waste is huge. I mean, coming back to our industry, the pre-press industry went through massive change after the desktop publishing revolution. So in the mid-80s, we lost the strippers. We lost the typesetters. We lost the people who made colour separations. We lost all sorts of trades.
And the chemicals.
And the chemicals. We lost so much that printing companies had to do anything they could to survive. And the way they survived was to get more efficient, manage their waste, manage their processes, avoid errors. You know, the classic thing of an error in pre-press is easy and cheap to fix. You get it on a press, it's not easy and cheap to fix. And it didn't take too many people to learn that lesson before they made a change in their business. So our industry is actually incredibly efficient because of the way we've managed technology, not because we're altruistic, but because these businesses wanted to survive. The same with the publishing industry. You look at newspaper publishing and how many titles we've lost, but look at how many we've gained because they've worked out a good online model. So you take...
That was also my point today. It was basically that everything we do, we have to reinvent business model that fits modern age, basically, right? And I think that's also what you talk about. I was just wondering, because as you're being so dedicated and involved on the sustainability agenda, how difficult is it to get ears? I mean, I'm not talking about the committees.
To get ears?
Yeah. Because, I mean, one thing is that people are working in committees. One thing is working with standards. Another thing is all the things. I spoke to a guy from Printing United Alliance last week, right? And as I said to him, you do all the reports of the American market. And you probably know everything about AI, how that can help the industry. But I said, but if people don't read what you write or listen to how it's communicated, you never get it out, right?
This is one of the, always been a big problem, is that people have to be motivated to read. Yeah. So most of my career, I was a technical writer. I wrote about how I don't know, how XML works, or why a PDF is essentially a database, and why databases, and evaluated other people's products and technologies. There's no need for that anymore, because the investment risk into a particular piece of software is really not very high. So why do I need to bother read articles about this thing? I don't, but what they do want to read about is things that are meaningful for them. And sustainability is, apart from being something I care deeply about, you have to write it in a way that's meaningful. So we have the blog project.
Yeah, the Verdigris or...
The Verdigris project, yeah. We have a number of publishing partners, and we send them the blog for free, and hopefully they publish
Yeah, so
it.
that will basically be the means to get as big an audience as possible.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And
If you like, we will put it on English News as well.
Absolutely.
So we can put it out to more people. I have read it and I think it's great. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But the other way I stay in touch, because you asked how much I have to read to keep up to date, because of my committee members, every time we work on a document, the process is, you draft a document and you think, is this a good idea or not? You send it around to see whether people want to, there's a need. And the feedback that I get will tell me where we are in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because
I reckon that, because that is basically that if you've written something where it resonates with people, that is aligned where people are thinking, if it's not either you're behind or in front of something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And because this membership is global, it, as you're
Do you
saying...
feel tempted to republish them from time to time just to see if it has changed?
No, you can't do that.
I'm
It's
just joking.
copyright thing with ISO. But as you mentioned earlier, you can get the most surprising comments from the strangest places. So from Kenya, somebody says, well, you don't need to do this because of blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's interesting. And I get in touch with them and ask them, well, can you tell me more?
So it also gives, let's say, international network that also, to me, you seem like an international person, right? I don't know if you like traveling, but I think you like being with people from different cultures.
That's
right?
a legacy of the way I was brought up,
Yeah.
because
Of course, because you were in different countries
in all
as a
these
kid,
different
right?
places,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. I don't have a huge network of friends, but the women friends that I do have grew up in similar situations. So in Kenya, not Kenya, but somewhere in Africa,
Kenya there.
somewhere in Australia, in Turkey. And we have a very similar outlook, and I think it's because of that, not having a sense of being anchored to one place. So and I'm married to a wonderful Swedish man, so we still have connections in Sweden. So I am very much an international sort of person.
Have you been awarded often?
A couple.
A couple. So when I reach out to you and we didn't know each other, you have not even heard about Enkies. So was that just like a strange invite from?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was it was completely unexpected. Because, as I say, I haven't been very visible in the industry.
I can tell you that I would like to have your answer, but when I was looking for people that I would like to do, I always look around my friends, my network, and their network, and that was how I saw you in that interview with David Dilling. And then I run it by ChatGPT, just for the fun.
Oh, interesting.
You should try that, because it was actually, I said that I would like to invite Laurel, and I have read about this, and she's done this, and this, and this, and that. And the only thing it actually concluded was like a very sane and a very interesting and very profound candidate for the honorary award.
Sane?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm sane.
Not sane. Yeah, did I say sane?
I thought you said sane, S-A-N-E.
No. I hope you're sane too, but
Well, no,
no.
I'm a bit bonkers.
Yeah.
If we're honest.
I can't remember what I exactly said, but it was a very good.
Good choice.
Yeah, good choice. And when I started to read more about you and also read your post, I started to realize that the work you do, and that was why I was asking whether you get recognized for the work, because you get recognized from it, but does it get implemented? And that, I guess, is like for all of us that writes always like, do we get enough attention to the work we do, because it's important, right?
Yeah, it is, but I'm not. I don't expect to get attention for it.
So now you're here, first time in the English non-event community. So I hope you have enjoyed yourself.
I have. It's been hugely stimulating, and really interesting people, and been really, really good. It's a wonderful thing that you do, and it reminds me of our early Seabold seminars, because we would try and gather the very first one that Jonathan did that I just sort of helped with was, we had 80 people. And
That's the number here.
yeah, I had no idea really about the industry, but I had left England. It was in 1979, and the winter before was called the Winter of Discontent, where the print unions were on strike, the bin men in London were on strike. It was awful. But the thing that was most prominent was the technology that Jonathan was describing and giving me Siebold reports to read, which I didn't understand in the least. But the thing that struck me was that this is all about publishing, and publishing shapes everything that we know, everything. And whether it's in a newspaper, whether it's a label, whatever it is, the printing industry is the vehicle for how we shape society. And that's really profound and important. So at that very first Siebold seminar, I was fascinated to, first of all, not understand anything that they were talking about, but also the conversations over lunch and in between times, because
that's often where a lot of things get developed, right?
yeah, because people are sharing not just their view of their business or their
But also
technology,
because
but
people
themselves.
but also because people are not put up for a role. When you are private with each other, it becomes who you are. Basically, right?
Exactly. It becomes person to person without the filter of the work stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Morten.
It was great to have you here.
Absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the prize.